The following program contains frank and explicit freedom of speech. Viewer discretion is advised.
This is Gary Lamb, bringing relevant content on life, freedom, and the pursuit of wealthiness. Today, I am excited to share that I am incorporating AI into my content to better serve you, the viewer. Throughout this video, I plan to jump in and out of frame as certain points arise, but for the most part, Adam will handle the talking. I believe this approach will allow me to adapt to our constantly changing environment and better serve you, my audience, while also freeing up my time to focus more on the information. I truly hope you enjoy this new approach. Now, let's get on to the video. A supporter of GLN asked if I could make a video on Governor Tim Walz's military history. There's significant scrutiny surrounding his retirement at such a crucial time for our country, especially now that he is Kamala's running mate. At first glance, Governor Walz seems like a nice guy. He blends well and has an extremely accommodating approach.
I talked with one of the women who I caught laughing out loud when kind of giddy when she heard the news. Take a listen to our conversation. Hey, good morning. Did you guys hear the news?
We did.
I just heard. I laughed out loud.
You laughed out loud.
Yes.
What do you think?
Well, I'm excited. I hate to lose a wonderful governor, but I love Peggy Flanagan. I'm in early childhood education, and she's a strong advocate, as Walz has been.
Stay tuned for our video entitled The Teachers.
What do you think he brings to her ticket?
Well, I think he's very practical. I think he's been a clear advocate for everyday people. And people know that he's a teacher. He comes from not the urban areas.
Not the urban areas? What the does that mean?
He has a more rural greater Minnesota background. And I think just the way he talks about things, it makes common sense to people. He doesn't try to use political language. He just tries to get the work done.
Now, if you ask me, I kind of want a bit more than he's rural. So, I did a little digging. The article I'm citing is from CBS News titled, Tim Walz's Military Record Under Scrutiny as he joins Kamala Harris on Democratic Ticket by James Laporta. You can find the link in the description. According to CBS News, Walz first enlisted in the Nebraska Army National Guard in April 1981, serving as an infantry senior sergeant and administrative specialist. In 1996, Walz transferred to the Minnesota Army National Guard, where he first worked as a cannon crew member and field artillery senior sergeant. Walz deployed in August 2003 in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. The Minnesota National Guard told CBS News the battalion supported security missions at various locations in Europe and Turkey. Walz was stationed at Vicenza, Italy at the time and returned to Minnesota in April 2004. Walz retired honorably from the Minnesota Army National Guard's 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery, in 2005. During that time, the United States was involved in 2 major military conflicts: the war in Afghanistan, which began in 2001 as a response to the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, and the Iraq War. This conflict started in 2003 when a U.S.-led coalition invaded Iraq. The stated reasons for the war included claims that Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction, allegations of Iraqi support for terrorism, and a desire to remove Saddam Hussein's regime and promote democracy in the region.
I don't know if the Republicans who are running for this office know any of these things. Because they occupy a different reality, it seems. According to them, everything was really good in 2008, when we were going through the worst economic crisis in our lifetimes. Unemployment and uninsured rates were up, and we were hopelessly addicted to foreign oil, and bin Laden was still on the loose. This apparently was the golden age, then I messed up.
Oh, we remember. That's why we watching this shit.
What happened was this. George Bush and Dick Cheney, when they started their folly with the Iraq War, they needed bodies. They couldn't bring back a draft. It would be political suicide. So what did they do? Bush signed an executive order now sending our National Guard over in the world combat zones. That is ridiculous. That is for the regular military to be doing that. The Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, not the National Guard. And besides that, Governor Walz already had 24 years in. He's an E9. An E9 doesn't go out on patrol. It's a relatively honor position more than it is any else.
So what is the term stolen valor? Okay, so stolen valor is a term for the behavior of military imposters, individuals who lie about serving in the military or the extent of their military service. Stolen valor may also refer to Stolen Valor, a 1998 book. So, does this constitute as stolen valor? Well, I have to keep digging.
Here's another issue Walz is facing. According to the News Nation, link in the description, Walz instituted a hotline for people to call on social distancing guideline violators with penalties of a $1,000 fine or 90 days in jail. This may not be a big deal for some, but for others it's a huge concern.
Now, this is interesting for me, and the reason why I say that, because I just watched like several of Tim's speeches, and every single one of them, he is telling people to mind their own business. But here in his state, he's not only telling people to ignore that, but giving people authority to do so.
Republicans are also attacking Walz's stance on hate speech.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Now, you notice how he put misinformation and hate speech in the same context as if they're synonymous with one another. That's when I start to really lose my faith in what a person is saying. When I start seeing things like this, like he's accompanying misinformation, which is completely different from hate speech. Hell, I can be hating on this book right now and say, hey, this right here is all about hate speech. It's teaching inmates how to find integrity within the scriptures of the Bible. Like, this is hate speech. I can say that. And anybody who read this book can actually say that as well, because it's kind of accurate, right? I mean, I'm talking about a man that's talking about religion inside a book that's designed for prisoners. So I get that, right? But if I said that this book is going to teach you how to build a bridge, that would be misinformation. You see what I'm saying? It's not the same thing. So to me, I really hate when people do that. I cannot stand when they do that.
Hate speech does fall under the protection of the First Amendment. It doesn't matter how much you don't like what's being said, the right to say it must be protected. And let me be honest, I'd rather protect someone's freedom to speak foolishly than to waste my valuable time attempting to decode their true intentions. Lastly, Walz's history of supporting the rights of transgender minors.
Again, one of those that gets politically charged, and I would ask all of us, and I try and do this. I try and do this for my own sanity, and I try and do it because I think it's the right thing to do. Putting ourselves literally in the other people's shoes and wondering why they're doing what they're going to do. And when I think through this, when I say this as a teacher, there's about 150,000 of our children identified in our schools, in our public schools, trans students. And as a teacher, my number one responsibility in the classroom is the safety, security, and belongingness of every single child in that classroom. And if this child, for those who have concern, and I will not minimize people's concerns who are concerned that this is going to make an unsafe situation, whatever, I ask you that in many cases, these are children, my son's age, a fourth grader, a 10-year-old, who just wants to go to the bathroom, and their identity is they are male or female, and they just go in that bathroom and use it.
I just finished listening to the Jonathan Friedland podcast, where he was joined by political commentator Molly Jong-Fast, and the most she had to say about Kamala's running mate was how he appears more rural than Vance.
I think she's probably going to win Pennsylvania anyway. Look, the thing about Shapiro is he's really a good governor. I've interviewed him a bunch of times. He's really good. He's really smart. He is quite a good speaker. You know, as a Jew myself, it's exciting. The prospect of having a Jew on the ticket was exciting. But I also think, like, at this point, the sort of Democrats aren't so different. And I think that, you know, there were attacks on Shapiro that from the left and even from the right that would have landed. You know, he had some drama in his office. He had some, you know, there were some reasons to be anxious. Also, he does, you know, if you're just looking at it from a sort of purely cosmetic view, he looks young and urban in a way that Walz does not. Walz looks young, is older and rural. And, you know, that, and a lot of this country is rural.
So you think rural men and women will get behind a man that believes a biological boy can go to the bathroom with a biological girl? You think that?
In Romans 12:18, Paul encourages us to do everything in our power to work together as long as it doesn't infringe on our own morals. It is here where Walz's line, "The art of compromise without compromising his own values," piqued my interest in him. But what are his values? Stating over and over again he is a school teacher who has married a school teacher doesn't say much. Constantly reciting the word joy doesn't say much either. It seems to me Tim Walz is staying as vague as possible, which causes me to question the meaning behind his broad statements. Then, I read his signature accomplishment on protecting personal freedoms. Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan established ironclad reproductive freedom, protections for trans individuals, and gender-affirming care as fundamental rights in Minnesota. Governor Walz also banned the cruel, outdated practice of conversion therapy and ended book bans based on ideology.
After reading through his signature accomplishments on his website, link will be in the description, it is clear to me that I no longer have the ability to support him as a candidate because of what he's already done in his state, right? So that right there immediately disqualifies him in my book as a Christian believing man, because that goes completely against my morals. And according to my belief, I can't stand for that. Again, this is not a political viewpoint. This is a moral viewpoint. I mean, politically, he makes perfect sense for a lot of people, right? Because they need someone to represent them. And according to their morals or their beliefs, he might represent them very well. He doesn't represent me and my family, though. And that's right there disqualifies him entirely.
This, in my opinion, is why identity politics have no place in politics. It clouds judgment and distracts from what's really going on underneath the surface. I am not interested in what people do behind closed doors, but now it's being shoved in my living room, and that's where I draw the line.
But none of this is really saying that he stole Valor, right? Like, yes, I'm reading a lot of stuff about him and what's going on in his state and all this stuff and how his crime rate went up ever since he's become governor and things like that. But there's no concrete evidence stating that he is, in fact, still in Valor. I mean, I'm still not really fully sure if I know exactly what that means. And then I came across this article.
According to the Federalist article titled, "Tim Walz misrepresented his military service. He needs to answer some questions" by Matt Beebe, Walz's record shows that he did initially retire as a command sergeant major on May 16, 2005, but it was quickly revised and updated on September 10 of that year. Yet Walz continued to publish his superseded discharge certificate with the command sergeant major rank as part of a media packet until the week after his election victory in 2006. Yet the rank command sergeant major is still on his bio.
And there's the rub. He's running off of a rank that he no longer has. And here's why he doesn't have that rank. Take a look.
On Thursday, March 17th, the National Guard Public Affairs Office announced a possible partial mobilization of roughly 2,000 troops from the Minnesota National Guard. When asked about his possible deployment to Iraq, Walz said, "I do not yet know if my artillery unit will be part of this mobilization, and I am unable to comment further on specifics of the deployment." Although his tour of duty in Iraq might coincide with his campaign for Minnesota's first congressional seat, Walz is determined to stay in the race. As Command Sergeant Major, I have a responsibility not only to ready my battalion for Iraq, but also to serve if called on. I am dedicated to serving my country to the best of my ability, whether that is in Washington, D.C. or in Iraq. I don't want to speculate on what shape my campaign will take if I am deployed, but I have no plans to drop out of the race. I am fortunate to have a strong group of enthusiastic supporters and a very dedicated and intelligent wife. Both will be a major part of my campaign, whether I am in Minnesota or Iraq. So Walz had a decision to make, and he chose Congress. However, shortly after retiring, Walz's rank was retroactively revoked from Command Sergeant Major to Master Sergeant.
Yes, I just want to say something. Beautiful move. My God, was that a beautiful, beautiful move. Because if that didn't wake me up, seeing this guy, you want, like, okay, I'm sorry. This is what I'm talking about when it comes down to letting women lead stuff. See what I'm saying? Like, look at that crap. You honestly believe that we think that man is a man? You've never met a man before then, hun? Are you kidding me? Wow, that's crazy for me to see that. I mean, the man is absolutely no. I really don't care what you say about it. I'll say this to anybody and they all will agree with it. That's a no, going against what's going on. They attacked Israel. You understand that, right?
12 children, Druze Arab boys and girls ranging in age from 10 to 16, were killed by the blast, and dozens more were injured and taken to hospitals. Israel blamed the attack on Hezbollah, which denied responsibility, and struck targets in Lebanon on Sunday in what was seen as a restrained initial response. The Israeli military said the type of rocket used in the attack is Iranian-made and carries more than 50 kilograms of explosives. Hezbollah is the only group in Lebanon that possesses such rockets, the military said.
That's it. That's it. That's it. They're killing children. No, I can't stand for that. I won't stand for that. Period. Point blank, the end. And apparently it seems like you will stand for that. I mean, my God, you're doing all this just so you can get back Roe v. Wade. That's what this fight is all about? Roe v. Wade? That's it? So you'll let what's going on with our borders, with our men, and our children for that? And if you think this governor, Tim, is going to go against Putin and all these crazed individuals who's willing to attack children, you really believe that this man is the one that you want for the job? This was an amazing move for Vance. I did this whole video, this whole thing, just to let you know I'm not backing Kamala. Trump. Listen, I'm with Trump because I'm with Israel. You don't kill kids. You don't kill kids.